Hi, this is a mic check for the folks online. Hi, Josh. I'm Vipal. Nice to see you virtually. Would you mind unmuting and we'll just see if we hear you fine?
Can you hear me okay, Vipal?
Oh, yes. That's a good booming baritone. Yep, we got you.
Very good.
Great. And if I step over here, you still hear us fine, right?
I can hear you just fine.
Thanks, sir. Okay. We're gonna just hold the good old Minnesota minute. Just let folks settle. We're unmuted and we're live now. Before I forget. I've got,
I don't see it out there.
Parkland Pizza P530.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Quality pizza here. Usually I'll get done. But last time I thought I need to know right down where I'm getting this from.
Of course, the chicken is good. I mean, all people are nearby. I feel like there's just so many good options.
Right? Is there brown
Can we just think of something new we should?
Hi, families and students. We're going to figure out the childcare situation in a quick sec. He's going to reconnect with Miss Sue.
Sounds good.
She mentioned.
She went to go see if there's other people here.
Oh,
Yeah, computer lab, you can definitely go in there too.
okay. And I imagine you've been in the computer lab enough to know passwords. Okay, because I don't know. When my son, the first time he computer lab here, and he came home, he said, he never showed me that keyboard or mouse. Put a little push panel.
Like a really good deal.
And I'm like, this is amazing. You actually don't use computer.
How do you spell chicken?
Yeah. No, this is free. This is kindergarten.
Oh, yeah.
And they brought him in here for the first time. We had to show them a mouse. She was like, oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
I was wondering if that was the one, because one of our neighbors had given the kids gift cards to Chiquinos for cleaning up the neighborhood. Like on Earth Day.
Oh, cool.
But I'd forgotten that was the name. What's the park?
Hey, how's it going?
Parkway.
Good.
I think there might be.
Oh, hey.
Hi, Mandy.
How are you?
Parkway.
Anything about you?
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh, good to see you.
I came to a PTO meeting.
I'm so proud of you. I also came to a PTO meeting.
You do that all the time. Good for you. Good for
There's
you.
one place, no, that's Parkway, it's like on the website where it's not,
Oh, it
we're
says
not
that.
in there.
Carboni's always delivers to us.
All right, I now have a new list called pizza places. Perfect.
And then there's also Pizza Luce. Can't go wrong, but that one's, it's more expensive.
How do you say that one?
What are we gonna do here?
LUC.
What do we do?
It's fun. Mostly people talk about it.
And they have like,
So,
we
yeah,
have
it's good.
different variety.
I was like,
That's good.
but he's good at it.
Yeah.
Did the kids stay with you
That
longer
one's
over
been
time?
great for
Or do you have your regular
pizza
schedule?
since I made.
Regular schedule. I had
In the
Christmas,
middle of
but
our
I left
first
out.
final days of the transfer, and then we got all the reviewers together to talk about the applications they've been reviewing for the last while. It's
But
like
it was
the
good.
7 busiest days of my work year, starting
And then
last
New Year's to
Wednesday.
myself, which is
And
weird.
midway through the afternoon, I realized I made no preparation for food, and like I couldn't even get away from my computer. So I signed.
What about you guys? Do you travel at all?
No, no.
Yeah.
Give me a pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad we did it.
Yeah. Weather was rough.
Yeah. The farthest we went was St. Louis Park.
Okay.
It was good.
I got it really hard on Thursday and Friday, so today felt
But the
like
neighborhood felt
easy peasy.
Yeah.
We didn't
So
see Jimenez and Jay.
Where'd they go?
cruising through.
Yeah,
it.
Jess was at the
I
cabin.
it does feel like Wednesday already.
The whole, like anytime.
Monday, it's a full week.
But
We had an exciting thing happen right when we got to the garage.
it's nice to have her
And there
like
was
I feel like I
Was it one of ours?
Yeah.
like in a way, or like we're finally, it's at that moment, like there's no more
Yeah.
talking about the what ifs in the house and the
I
what's
said,
not, it's just
Yeah,
it.
it's not my responsibility.
Heaven's knows what comes next.
Eamon did tell me
Yeah.
that the rats have been somewhat under control.
How about you?
All good. No worries. Okay.
I mean,
Hello, folks online. Michelle, how do we sound? Good deal. Molly, Alicia, hi. Josh, hi. We are going to get going. I appreciate everybody's patience. Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to the meeting. This is our agenda for the evening. I am front-loading number 2 because we have a guest from the district who's going to speak to us. And this is recorded, Josh, just so you know, and so that, and actually I did already say so. And then we're going to be able to share with others because we have those 20 or 30 other people who actually watch the stream afterwards. And then we're going to go in normal order. But having said that, let's just start with welcomes, because I think there are some folks who are here who are relatively new. I'm Vipal. I've got a 3rd grader, and I'm PTO president. And then Robin.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin. I have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader. And thanks for being here.
I'm Shona Cox, I was a 2nd grader.
Peter Thompson, 2 4th graders.
Liz Thompson, same.
I'm Joanne Brockington. I have 2 first graders, and I just apologize in advance. I have to leave pretty soon. My kids are going to have kids, but I want to listen to the first part.
Perfect.
I'll be one of those watchers at home later.
I'm Tracy. I have a high fiver.
I'm Diego De Paz. I'm the principal here at Bancroft.
I'm Kate. I also have a high fiver. This is my first PTO meeting. I've been trying to get here all year.
Welcome,
Finally made
welcome.
it.
Yeah.
I'm Tom. I got a 1st grader.
I'm Damien. I have a 3rd grader. And this is also my first PTO meeting.
Welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
I'm Mandy. I have a 3rd grader and a 5th grader.
I'm Darren. I have a kindergartner.
Great. And Melissa, who just joined?
I'm Melissa, I'm a 2nd grader.
Great, thank you. And then online, I'm going to throw to Alicia. Do you hear us okay, Alicia?
Yep, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Alicia Waka Butler. I have a kindergartner and a 4th grader.
All right. Yeah, they keep advancing in grades.
Not used to it still.
Yeah. Thank you. Michelle?
I'm Michelle. I have a sorry again, I almost said 1st grader. I have a 2nd grader.
Great, thank you. And Molly?
Hi, I'm Molly. I've got a 3rd grader, and last year I had a 5th grader.
All right. Thank you. All right, so here is item number 2. And Josh, was I correct? Am I correct in your credentials there, in your provenance?
Yes, I like to go by the shorthand of lobbyist. It just gets it right out of the way. But yeah, I head up the government relations work for the Minneapolis Public Schools.
Great, thank you. And so Josh is taking a bit of time. You're visiting with other PTOs. Shannon sort of connected us. And these are his bullet points. And so Josh, I'm going to leave the floor to you. And the goal really is give us what you know. And then for the families who are here now and who are going to watch this later on, please connect with us PTO, because we would like to help organize our families in their advocacy, pretty much in the same way that you've all been active last year and the year before. We know that there's some percolating. We just need to sort of get organized as a group. But Josh, the floor is yours.
And Vipal, how much time do you want me to take? Because I can talk a lot.
Well, I know you've got to get to Hiawatha by 6. So, you are going to be our first substantial crack informationally, right? We have all sort of talked about this at the PTO level, but we're all just amateurs. You're the professional here. So take as much time as you need up until you got to get to Hiawatha PTO.
Wonderful. Well, I've got 20 minutes before that meeting starts, so I will jump right in. And is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me stop the share.
Is it side by side?
Then I
Side by
think
side speaker is kind of a nice way to do it. Easy share.
Not on this.
No.
This particular device doesn't do side by side.
All right.
Do you have share? Yep, there you go.
Yep, I think I've got it. Now go find my slides. All right, can you see my
We
PDF?
can. Yep.
Okay. Okay, well, my name's Josh Downham. I'm a proud MPS graduate. I'm not going to tell you what year, but I also am the parent of two recent MPS grads. And I like to say that my daughter's got an amazing education at MPS, and I want my job, I feel, as the lobbyist, is to get the district the resources so that each and every student in Minneapolis can have the same experiences that my kids had. And I'm very fortunate, I feel, to be the lobbyist for MPS. I've been doing this for almost 9 years. And prior to that, I was staff at the state capitol and did a few other things, but I'm very excited to be working, and particularly this year with what I feel is going to be probably the best legislative session in terms of education funding in my 30 plus years working at the Capitol. So with that, I just wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about a few of the key dates that are coming up here. You know, we fund our state government on a biennial basis. So we basically set up a 2-year budget. We pass that in odd number years. So 2023 is that year. And it just began last week, and the session will end on May 22nd. So they have to get all of their work done by May 22nd, or they'd go into a special session. You all are, I'm sure, quite aware of the outcome of the election, where Democrats took the governorship, House, and Senate. What you may not know is it is by the slimmest of margins. Democrats have a 1-seat majority in the Minnesota Senate, and they have I believe it's a 6-seat majority in the House out of 134. So they have to keep their caucuses intact. And so some of the proposals that they may be putting forward, if just one Democrat chooses to vote against it or not be present, that proposal would go down. So it's going to be interesting. And actually, one of the Minneapolis legislators, Carrie Dietzick from Northeast Minneapolis, is actually the majority leader of the Senate. She's the top person. She's going to be directing all of the work in the Senate. And we're very fortunate to have her in that position. Two really important dates. One just happened in early December, and that's when the state released the state budget forecast. They will be doing an update to that forecast at the last week in February. Those numbers that come out in February are what the legislature and governor will ultimately use as the final numbers to set the budget. This past December, they announced a budget surplus, a forecasted budget surplus for the next 2 years of $17.6 billion. To put that in context, the state budget in total is about 55 billion. So you can see that 17 billion is just a massive amount of money relative to the size of the state budget. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in the next slide about how that money actually is, how it's organized, because not all of it is going to keep reoccurring into future years, and that will have real implications for the legislature. So V-Paul, can you see that slide about ongoing versus one-time revenue?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, great. So because the legislature actually has to budget for the next 2 years, and they have to balance the budget for the 2 years after that. So they're basically looking at a 4-year timeline. And they divide those into those 2-year sections for this first biennium, that blue bar that shows the $17.6 billion of forecasted surplus money. The red bar next to it is actually fiscal years 26 and 27. Those are the 2 years after that. And they're forecasting a surplus of 8.4 billion. So roughly $9 billion of the current surplus is actually not going to keep reoccurring. It's one-time money. So think about that as if you would think about a savings account that you would have versus a salary that's going to keep coming in month after month. That those one-time dollars can only really be spent on things that have a one-time cost. Well, in education, almost 80% of our costs are actually reoccurring costs. They're people, they're pension benefits, their healthcare, their salaries. As an organization, most of our expenses are ongoing unless we change that, unless we downsize our district, we lay off staff. Those kind of things are really the only way we as a district can lower our expenses in a significant way. Well, the state is in a similar position. They can really only spend 8.4 billion on things that will then have what they call tails, costs into the future. So as a lobbyist, what I'm looking at is how do I get as much of that $8.4 billion in both the blue bar and the red bar? And then how do I help them come up with creative solutions to spend that $9 billion in ways that benefit us, that don't create fiscal cliffs for school districts? And I'll go into that a little bit later when I get into the legislative priorities of the district. So I have put 3 links in the chat, Vipal, with links to this slide deck, to the district's overall legislative agenda, and to a way for families to find out who represents them so that they can more easily communicate, because we know we just had redistricting. So the district boundaries changed. We had a lot of new faces come into the legislature. So finding out who represents you, how to get their contact information, that 3rd link is also in the chat. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on all of the provisions in the district's legislative agenda. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm going to leave some time here for folks to ask questions, but I'm just going to tick through a few or a couple of the items in each one of these categories. And then if anyone wants further information, we can do it tonight, or you can also reach out directly to me. So the biggest area in terms of talking about the state budget forecast is really how do we as a district get that stable, predictable funding that will allow us to provide the education our kids need. The first and most important point is the first bullet on the list. And each student in Minneapolis generates a certain amount of money. And that's the general education aid formula. Well, every 2 years, I have to go and spend a lot of my political capital just trying to get a 2 or 3% increase in that formula, because it's not tied to inflation. It's a fixed dollar amount per pupil. Well, in recent years, we've been encouraging lawmakers and the governor to actually index that to inflation, so that we don't have to use all our time and energy and political capital just to fight to keep up with inflation. And so I'm hopeful. I've been in a few meetings this last week with the governor, and he said that is his top priority for education, which is fantastic. In Minneapolis, we also receive some additional resources for our voluntary pre-K, so our 4-year-old programs. That money is due to expire at the end of this school year. It's about $1.2 million for the district. So getting that not only renewed, but made permanent is something that I'm hopeful we can do this year. That has a state cost statewide of about $40 million. And then, as you all are aware, the district can ask their voters for some additional revenue. And so we have an operating levy that voters have approved. We're going to have to go back to voters to renew that. We're the only unit of government that actually has to keep going back to ask their voters to renew something that you've already supported in the past. Cities, counties, they all just vote as an elected body to move those into the future. So what we're going to seek is to allow the school board to renew something that the voters had previously passed. Now, if we ask for more money, we would still have to then go back to voters to do that. But doing a renewal of an existing one is something that I hope we can get done this session as well. And then I left special ed for the next slide, but the other piece here is we have a pretty significant underfunding in our English learner program. And so about 11 to 13 million, depending on the year, of district funds from our general fund go to support these important programs. As a state, we only fund about 1/3 of the cost of our English learner programs statewide. So getting additional funding there, and my hope would be that it gets closer to about 80% funded. I'm going to just skip over this real quick and I'll come back to the safe school piece. I'm going to talk about this other funding piece. So special education is the largest area of the district budget that the state requires, but doesn't fully fund. We as a city, or pardon me, as a school district, routinely spend $40 to $60 million a year more than we get funding from the state and federal government. Those dollars have to be made up for with general education funds. And there's a bill, House File 18, and I'll include a link to it in the chat here in a moment, that would fully fund special education. So for MPS this year, that would be over $40 million of new funding that we could use to hire teachers because it's ongoing money. That money can then be used to create supports for students, both special ed and general ed. So it's fungible money in a sense that it goes back into the general fund to support all students. I'm going to skip over these last few things. Feel free to ask questions about it. There are various components of how our special education system work or don't work, and how I'm trying to get those fixed. On the safe schools and communities piece, this is something that where the Minneapolis hasn't actually weighed in too much in the past, but felt really compelled given the violence that many of our students have experienced recently on their commutes to school, in their buses, and actually in their schools. So right now, each student generates only like $36 or $38 of safe school revenue. We're going to seek to triple that amount to over $100 per pupil, and use that for supports for kids, but also for some infrastructure. Some buildings don't have safe, secure entrances. Some buildings don't or can't hire personnel to help with behavior and so on. So safe schools revenue is a really important piece of how we provide supports for kids, but also buildings that are safe. And then this second bullet is something that we really seriously have not weighed into, but the state is considering red flag laws, which would allow the police with a court order to remove weapons from homes where there's a concern about safety of the person or family members. There's also proposals that would be for any home that has a child in it, that guns would have to be kept in a gun safe or have a trigger lock. And there's a few other what get termed, gun control measures, but trying to find ways to ensure that students don't have access to guns, to, in many cases, sadly, to harm themselves or to harm others. Sadly, most of the gun deaths are suicide. And that is clearly something that we can address with trigger locks and gun safes and so on. So I apologize, I don't have specific legislation yet to reference, but as we move into the legislative session deeper, this is going to be something that we're going to be helping hopefully advance at the Capitol. So I've got a few minutes left, and I will just say that mental health supports for our kids, school-linked mental health grants, are going to be a top agenda item, both for lawmakers. The governor has mentioned it, and it's something that we'll be pushing hard. And there's a number of other supports for kids related to housing, transportation for our homeless kids. And then expanding the state support for recruitment of teachers of color is going to be a really important piece for the state. And Minneapolis has actually been a leader in that, but we could use some additional resources to help support our grow your own pathways for teachers to, or paraprofessionals and others to become teachers. And then getting involved. We have a parent legislative action committee, and you can find more information about it. There's over 330 Minneapolis parents who get updates from me regularly, get action alerts when there are things that we're hoping to move at the state capitol. And there's more information about the Parent Legislative Action Committee at the district website. There's a 5-question sign-up form where you can go in and just give me your contact information. I don't share it with anyone, it's just me. And part of it is knowing who represents you. So the district lookup there will help you, and I'm asking you to give me your state house number, like 63B, and your state Senate district, like 63. And then I can tailor some of those outreach emails and phone calls to individual legislators who might be sitting on key committees. So VPAL, I apologize, I'm going right up to my time. I told you I talk a lot, but I'm going to stop sharing and let you know that I can come back at any time if there's more in terms of questions around outreach or issues. But you can also reach me at josh.downham, and then the whole string of Minneapolis at mpls.k12.mn.us.
Great, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. If you don't mind, I was able to find your PDF online. So is that something that I could just live link out?
Yes, please.
Okay, great, good deal. And for the folks online, I did capture those chats, so that I'll just share the chats individually since we didn't get a chance to look at the chats. Do you have time for questions, or are we sort of at a place where you need to cut it?
What, can we just do one and then I'll jump to my other meeting?
Absolutely. Was there anything that struck the floor or online? I do want to give everyone an opportunity to say something. Do we feel like we have a sense of direction and a starting point now that Josh has sort of given us some of this info? All right, I think that's a positive thing. There will be follow-up. It's, of course, I got the sense you threw quite a bit at us, and so this is good. We'll sort of chomp on it, and we will follow up. And now that obviously your email's public, so it's no big deal. We'll get that out to people too. But thank you very much for the time.
Happy to answer. Hey, thanks everybody. It's going to be a fun session.
Such a positive spin. Yes, absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Bye now.
All right. All right. So there's that. I know it's a little off our normal, but I wanted to have this fit in, and then we have an entire month before February, right? And maybe we'll be able to make, as a group, some strides in a direction that we'd like to go. I am going to get the kids going with their pizza, and then we could certainly follow up. But in terms of, let me just get where I gotta get my slide deck up so that we know where we're at, because I cannot function without an agenda.
Before we move off of this, I was gonna say, like, I probably had 5 or 6 questions, but they probably have long answers, but if others have questions, would it be worthwhile compiling questions into like one place? I'm happy to do that collating.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Then we can kind of hand all over and then,
Well, why don't we do this? I mean, the next item up is board reports. It's not like there's a rush. So what if we spent the time while I get the kids going on supper? Maybe we could collect our mental thoughts now, and that's at least something that's captured while it's still fresh in our heads. Is that good for online people?
Yeah, I also had, this is something I've been emailing legislators about, and I kind of don't know the best way to go. So I had a few questions too. So I think that would be good.
Absolutely. So Robin, could
Yep,
you,
I'm on it.
Robin will mediate and will manage the collection points, and then pizza will be eaten.
Perfect. Yeah, let's just kind of open up some discussion and take a few minutes to talk about it, and I can kind of capture, and I think you're volunteering to
I
help
don't mind
coordinate.
if you want to take it, even just rough notes, I can
Sure.
try to turn that into like a, slightly more articulate list, and I will come up with.
Perfect. Thanks, Tom.
I threw a couple of my questions in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Michelle. I'm gonna look to Melissa.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe someone here can answer that. I'd see it not. I'm not understanding, when he talks about the district's levy, and I had this question during the strike too. I think the Minneapolis is a special school district where the state manages the budget, not the city. Like in sometimes the city is controlling the school district. And so he kind of talked about it like it was a legislative agenda item. So I guess that's.
So is your question kind of like,
what is,
who manages the school district's budget?
Yeah.
Anyone have an answer?
Like my parents live in Egan and they have referendums all the time for the school district, and my mom can't stop talking about them, and I'm like, where is our referendum? I want to fund the school district, like.
I feel like every time I voted, there's been something about.
Maybe I'm just checking, yes. Like he brought it up with the state talk, so I was like, is that, who manages that? I'm like, I don't.
I didn't understand that entirely either. It seemed like it had something to do with that we had to keep asking for something that was passed to continually be reauthorized. Yeah.
What I understood was that when levies are approved by voters for different modules of the government, the governing body of that module can just continue to decide to keep using that levy at that rate. But that school boards don't have that power, and so they need to get legislation in place to give the school boards that power, I think, is what I was hearing. Now, the functionality of all that, I have no idea. But yeah, dear God, don't give people the power to take this stinking money away. I actually happened to hear on NPR right as I was coming over, they were talking about the surplus, and they were saying that there was legislation about 20 years ago to change it from being indexed to inflation to not being indexed to inflation, and if they fix that, it's actually like $1.5 billion less than what's being shown.
Michelle, do you want to share a couple of your questions? I don't want to try to pull up the chat on VPaul's computer.
Yeah, that's fine. So I think I felt like there was a lot of it. I felt like when we were doing the I can start my video so much like a disembodied head talking. When we were doing the advocacy last session, I felt like there was a lot of focus on like, okay, these are the 1 or 2 things that we really need to hone in on. And I felt like there was a lot of stuff in Josh's presentation, but I feel like there's really like 3 things in there that to my mind are really the critical things. And rather than, advocating for a dozen things, we really should be focusing on like 2 or 3 of the most critical things with the governor and with the legislators. And so I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what should we really be focusing on? I mean, to my mind, it's indexing to inflation, and indexing school funding to inflation, and special education funding is the huge unfunded mandate. And if we were to pick a third thing, it would be English language learning funding, also an unfunded mandate. And to my mind, those are the 3 like slam dunk things, especially because 2 of them are unfunded mandates, and it's a huge amount of money, especially for special education. So I know like that's what I've been writing legislators about. I just wanted to check in with them, like, is that what we're focusing on? Are we trying to focus in on all of it? I feel like it works better if we just pick a couple of things that would be really critical for the district, and those are probably the biggest, I'm going to use a bad word here, but probably biggest like cash cows, as it were, or the biggest amounts of money. It would net us the biggest gains for our advocacy. And then also, what's the most critical for us to be doing, and then who are the critical people in the House and the Senate to connect with. I know there were a few really key people they wanted us to connect with last time with the redistricting. I think that's probably different now. So that was kind of what I'm wondering is, should we be writing letters? Should we be showing up to the Capitol? And then who should we be even trying to talk to?
I know often they'll just tell you to talk to your own legislators, because if you're not in someone's district, they're not really interested in talking to you.
Although last time there were, I think that's true if you're talking about Republicans, they don't care about. I mean, not mean just in general, like, if you're trying to advocate like Chamberlain last time in the Senate, and he's like, I don't care, like, you're not in my district. But so I think last time there was a real push to try to find people in those districts. But I also connected last time to a couple people who weren't my senators, but they were the ones pushing for these bills. So I know Josh had mentioned a specific bill with special education, and the person whose bill it was really happy to connect with people not in their district and say, okay, this is what we need you to be doing. And I think I'd be curious about that too, especially if there's a possibility of getting that special education bill passed. I think it would be nice to connect with the person whose bill it is and find out, okay, what do you want us to do?
Sure.
Because it's not our senator that's doing the bill. I don't know who it is.
Tom?
I guess just to build on that, my impression for the kind of focus, like 2 or 3 items, I guess to me, it was maybe because there was a less education friendly environment. So trying to really hone that ask so that you're not throwing like a laundry list of people who are already less receptive. I feel like maybe there's now a sense that we don't need, we could get 6 or 7 things now. But I guess to that point, I guess I was curious to know where NPS's ask, first of all, what they are, if we could kind of break down, like what actually is the district asking for, and how does that contrast with what some of the outstate districts might be asking? Where are there potential areas of friction? Like, is there like is there like a Joe Manchin type somewhere outstate who's on the DFL caucus who's going to be asking for things that we think are unreasonable or potentially conflicting with what we as parents in this district might want, given that slim majority.
Good discussion. Molly, I saw you chatted in the chat box, but I didn't catch it in time. Do you want to add anything in?
There's my unmute. Yeah, I mean, similarly to Michelle, I guess I'm just wondering if it's something that we should encourage parents as individuals to focus on, or if like the PTO wants to come together and, represent our school and represent MPS in certain places or with certain issues. So I'm not sure if that's something that like PTO as a whole does, or if it's more like, hey, parents, this is an action you can take that would be helpful. So.
Hey, Paul, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. How did you know? No, I mean, that's a fair statement, it's a fair question. I think the tack, I mean, everything's dynamic, you get what you get, right, wherever you're at, but we have taken the tack that we want to empower and encourage participation and let the actual messaging sort of fall to the individual families. We know their priorities, and our goal or our function is to try to make things as clear as can be so that you all can act. And the letter write, we took on letter writing as a thing because we could make a template and then you could add your stuff, and we showed you how you could send that stuff off to, and I think our family sort of participated in that fairly well. And having these kinds of discussions, which we tend to have once a year, there's always something, and that's great. So that's our hope. Our hope is that and whatever is a priority out there that comes together kind of naturally, great. The goal is just let's try to get as many voices heard. That's our goal.
It would be great.
Would it be,
I was just gonna say it'd be great to know, like people like Michelle and Shannon who are more engaged, like to be letting us know about particular bills, because that's when you can make a really pointed, quick message. And so we know we have parents who are already involved, or even like that mailing list that you talked about. I had never heard of that before. I would have gladly. I will sign up for that too, or take action on alerts. So like sharing information like that.
Yep.
Nice, 'cause I know that was done in the past too, which is just really helpful to be able to stand up for a specific bill.
Sure. Yeah, that's a fair statement. I think what's gonna, well, we will act as a clearinghouse. I think that's one of the functions that we can do. Act as a clearinghouse for that kind of information. Where we post and how we share, I think there are some rules that sort of govern how we do this. I was almost going to say, I'll put it on the website, because I think we went across the line at that point, but the Facebook is certainly there. And we've got our minutes, we've got these things, we've got our parent group, we've got our Facebook parent, and I know we don't have everyone on Facebook, so we've got our email list. And so we will leverage all of that to share the info out. And in terms of, I think what would be great is coming out of this, we have a sense of who wants to sort of be the active. We know Shannon is active, and she shares a lot of info with us, but she's not necessarily at the meeting all the time. People who are at the meeting, we could be that as well, and then connect and share out. So I think that would be a great thing to come out of today's meeting is, okay, what do we want to do moving forward? We know we've got some information to share out. Are there any among us here now, online and in person, that sort of want to be part of this? Tom, you were part of it last year. Would you like to be part again? Not to put you on the spot.
I'm interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of the thing. Who has the capacity to take on some leadership role on it to sort of help guide us through? And PTO, we have the platforms, we have the email list, we have the ability, we have a budget to sort of try to share out the information that people need so they can be active. Does that sound like a plan? So I've got Tom on the list.
I'm in.
Michelle? Yeah. Anybody else from the group want to be part of a little list? We'll just start an email chain and we'll let you go. Wind you up and go.
I know, and I can ask Shannon, and there's another parent who's not here who I know is really interested in this as well. So maybe we can see if some people who aren't here, who aren't able to make meetings, would be interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we do actually have a little sub list of
Yes.
some of our, I think bingo or Winter Arts Night,
Yep.
where we collected some names.
I see you that, Molly. Thank you.
Yep.
Great.
Any other discussion on this particular point?
Sounds good. Tom, I'll connect with you and share these notes too.
Please do. I mean,
Yep.
just whatever brief thing that
Easy.
Shirley will do.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, great. We are at 1:15. I think we could open to food and then just move right into the rest of our meeting. And we don't have to take an actual break. Just grab food, come back and sit.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, online folks, find your own pizza. But let's go ahead and I want to check in on this. Oh, I want to save this check. Save this check.
Yeah, Josh had mentioned that he sent a bunch of materials in the chat and Michelle said she didn't see them, so maybe they only went to you?
No, they went to everyone, but
Okay.
they might not, like, one of the links failed and then some
Oh,
of the links
okay.
worked, so. it
I
could
mean, and I
be-
think we'll just summarize all that and send it out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's easy.
I think like NPS resources, we can post program page.
Yeah.
I think it's, any other, sort of- it's just things that sort of borderline.
Right.
Just so you
I
all
feel
know.
like a toddler wearing a seal tape out of the library.
Another pizza.
Yeah. I walked over, so I just kept on. Yeah, you go. Just easier. Balls.
I don't know.
I live Parkway, basically in a Luce phase right now, so we have like the art
Yeah.
over, what was an art. I feel like they're really nervous.
I like to, you know.
And he likes to like,
Yeah, there's
early.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, he likes the Luce, they have like the big cheese that's like.
Yeah,
usually the crumbled up. He likes it, and it's like, it's not.
I know you're chewing, so you don't have an answer. but I feel like you've been to a PTO meeting before.
No, never have I ever.
Really?
I do other stuff.
Oh, well, so maybe I'm just conflating one meeting with another.
You're usually at like a family night and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
tango.
yeah.
and we have
I'm engaged, dude.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out to this one.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Monday night free.
Oh, there you go. Well, then you gotta go home.
I can.
Our Mondays are like a fun
Is
spot.
it monthly?
It is, every second Monday.
Second Monday.
Yeah. It's on,
We're doing
panel review. We have a backup calendar.
Yeah.
More so people can subscribe.
Right, yeah.
Oh, wow, we're even on the legislative action committee page right there. Yeah.
It's fun though, because it's like we spent time.
That's really good
information.
I appreciated that he like spoke slowly and like wasn't trying to rush through it. It was just helpful to like track and follow.
Like he's used to talking to.
Yeah, to people who don't see regular people. Yeah.
Emphasizing if you're going to
Yeah. Because I feel like that whole discussion is like really above the grade as a, like, getting paid
No.
for this, but
I.
but it's a lot and I.
Yeah, no, I think the challenge for all of this is like, I mean, we care about
Yeah.
this for a reason, and how do we just get that? And not that we talk the technical jargon, and we don't talk, the legislative jargon.
Right.
And I don't know, I mean, part of me does have a belief still that when there's a mass of messaging, that they listen, right?
I guess I have a question about the language that is used. When they say fully funded, like fully funded special education, like that, what does fully funded actually mean?
Well, so I don't have the numbers, and maybe someone here does, but the example that as I understand it, like federally, they say we need these certain list of things have to be provided, but they don't actually legislate the funding for it.
Okay.
Only of the totality of the 100% of things that are required, from a federal standpoint, they've only ever funded about 50% of that. And then the state needed to pick up the rest. Of course, the state doesn't, which then falls to MPS, or well, the districts with, you could use the word term fungible, right? Yeah, with their fungible dollars. So the notion is, and it's the messaging that we sort of tagged on last year, if you just pay for what you're requiring us to do, then that allows the district to free up its fungible cash flow.
Right, that makes sense, thank you.
That's my understanding of it. Folks online, I think we are reconvened, if you would like to re-engage. And I'm going to share my screen.
Does anybody know?
And your
what-
explanation for fully funding was right, although I think the federal government only funds I think the most they've ever funded was 40% of what they require.
40%. Okay,
Ridiculous.
I didn't give them enough credit.
Working for the federal government now, I've learned a lot about that. It's like, oh yeah, legislated and appropriated are two very different things.
Right. Okay, so, I'm just gonna open up for the sake of our monthly balance sheet tallies. This is the activity that PTO has had since the start of the school year, and you can see the items that are
Oh, you got a Zoom.
new. Yeah, hold on. Does that work?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right, so that's too much. All right, so new since last meeting is we still are receiving some income from folks that are being very generous with our Give Amen site, which is the way, for context, that's how we take charitable donations. We also take them as cash donations, but the nice thing about Give Amen is the whole write-off portion of it is sort of built into the system. Our output is here. And that's our change. Field trip account. And I'm just gonna share. And Liz, do you have anything that you want to highlight specifically about our accounts?
Well, the money for the headphones came out and the donation from the Masonic Lodge went into the field trip fund. But we still have roughly 54,000 in the main account and 27,000 in the field trip account. So a big surplus. We gave 400 to the school patrol.
Yep.
For snacks.
It's their payroll.
Payday.
Payday, yes, payday. Okay, any questions?
One question that came to my mind, we sent thank you cards to the Masonic Lodge for the donations, but I didn't know in the past historically if there's been any other like reporting back to them about what we've done with the funds.
Yeah.
Yep. So in the spring, usually May, they host a dinner and they invite us. So usually I will go with some fifth graders.
Nice.
Because they've usually benefited the most from all of the trips, and they talk about camp and some of the things that they've done. And so they host a little dinner.
Perfect.
And we go. I mean, the last couple of years has been a little goofy because of things. I think that wasn't last year because somebody did go last year. In 21, it was. I did a video and then videoed some of the kids too, saying what their favorite things were and sent it to them. And they got to watch that at one of their meetings. But yeah, so there is there is a reporting back, and it's a great little dinner we have in their little lodge basement, and then the kids share their experiences.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Liz, for the balance sheets. For winter play date, we did our first one of the season. We had about 30 participants. 27. Keep rounding up. We had 27 participants. It's our lower number historically, but we do have snacks here. I know, Michelle, you're not here.
I'm with Michelle on this one.
Okay, so Mandy, you can take that. We've got some snacks, and then you'll just kick in a little bit. But
I admit that I forgot entirely, and otherwise it probably would be really good to get my agenda out of the house.
Yeah. Well, we have another opportunity coming up Saturday. So this
It's more the middle of that week.
Yeah, the middle of that week. Yep. It was great. We met 3 families that are in our area that were considering, and I mean, one for sure already, and the other 2 were sort of considering. So it was nice to be able to make that connection. So I feel like it was productive, and snow forts and all that stuff. It was good. I couldn't wax on poetically about play dates. But we did spend. I apologize for being not exact. I believe we were at 162 is what I spent. I took back 132 in expenses. But then that box of treats that didn't get taken, so that'll fold in. So our Saturday play date will have a lower expense simply because of the carryover. And I did, for the sake of the recording, this is mostly for the sake of the recording, we had 3 $10 gift certificates left over from bingo. I did use those, which is why I only took 132. That's the accounting. I'm sticking to it. Any questions about Playdate? We're doing it again Saturday, 10 to noon, here at our playground, treats for the first 60.
It'll be fun. I got 48 applesauce pouches and 48 allergy-friendly granola bars, and we're doing hot cider. I have a big hot beverage dispenser.
We will have cider this
And we're
time.
gonna
Let
have
it be known.
cider. Neither Michelle nor I do dairy,
Got
so
it,
we
yeah.
decided to have something.
No, all good. I remember the debacle of 2021, or whatever year that was, where we said we'd have cider, but we couldn't find a cider source.
So yeah, we're
Yeah.
buying large things of apple juice and bulk cinnamon sticks,
Yeah.
and we are gonna bring it in a big dispenser.
All right.
But should be super fun. I'm looking forward to it. So far, I've spent $67.
Okay.
Yeah, don't make it too hot.
All right.
We
All
won't
right.
make it too hot.
There was a question of which allergy. Sorry. You said allergy for, or allergy.
So allergen friendly stuff. We're using the Made Good granola bars, which I believe are dairy, egg, soy, nut, gluten.
Perfect.
But if there are other dietary things, let me know. I'll hook you up.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, Diego, are you?
Yeah,
This is
sure.
a good time? All right, principals updates, and I'm gonna stop my share since there's nothing there anyway, so that we can see Diego big
Oh,
in the online recording.
so exciting. Well, I just want to say today felt like the first day after break because last week was so kind of goofy. So there were some high energy levels and, some kids didn't come to school on Friday, so I think we had like 73 kids absent Friday, so it was a good chunk of our kids. So kind of a goofy way to start the year, after break back, but thank you for sticking in there. I got to hop into some of the morning meetings and see the kids online. So that was fun those couple days, and who knows if it happens again, we'll be a lot more fresh with our computer skills and online skills with kids and our teachers, but it's enrollment season. We had the school finder fair that Minneapolis is part of on Saturday. It was something, I had not been part of something like this before. I'd done the school fairs at the convention center where like each school had their own booth. This one, the magnet schools had their own booth, and there was a number of charter schools and non-public schools that were part of it too. And then the community schools for MPS had their own table. And so we were there representing, I was there, I saw Mandy and Morgan, ZP and Zelia's mom. And so the community schools were there kind of representing. So it was me and a couple of their principals, and all the pamphlets for all the schools were there. And kind of wanted to promote, obviously, our schools, but also all of the community schools in Minneapolis. So with that, Anderson Middle is hosting their open house this Thursday. And so we have a couple of fifth graders here. So they are invited to that. Hopefully they got the flyer today from school, from our teachers passed it out. So that's an opportunity to learn about Anderson Middle. And then Bancroft, we have an open house that's happening virtually on Wednesday, January 18th. Those postcards are in the mail. So we have a list of all the potential incoming kindergartners that live in our attendance area. So they all get a postcard. On the postcard it has the Bancroft play date also, so hopefully we'll see some incoming families there. I think if you're a current, if you are a current High Five family and you go to Bancroft, if you're in our area, you're still gonna get a postcard because you technically still have to enroll at Bancroft. Even though you're already at our school, because it's a citywide program, so you have to just still fill out a card to make sure that Bancroft is your first choice. So for a couple High Five families here.
Thank you.
Let's see. Our fifth graders went to the University of Minnesota today to see the physics force fair. So that was super cool. I used to take my fifth graders when I worked in Bloomington to that field trip, and it was always just a blast to see. And I know it had taken kind of a little hiatus with the pandemic, and so it was brought back. And so our kids went to that this morning and totally loved it. And then you might have seen the construction signs are back out again, saying that the road will be closed December 17th. I'll be sending a more specific update, but I did get the plans today from what that's going to look like. We will still have access to our parking lot. But they are gonna eventually close, basically where our parking lot entrance is, all the way to our other parking lot entrance. And so that whole corner is going to be closed, and so I still have to talk with Miss Finney and the patrols, because kids cannot be out on the corner of 14th and 39th. Next week, actually this week on the 12th, they're putting in some ground thawers and warmers on this side of our street. Starting this week, they can't have the patrols out, and then officially on the 17th, the roads will be closed on both sides, and the sidewalk in front of from our parking lot opening to the end, and then from our parking lot opening to the corner. And so I'll send a specific thing, and that really impacts our pickup and drop off. And so.
Sorry about that, that's a bit not fun.
My initial thought is to have families who pick up on 14th Avenue, still pick up on 14th Avenue, but then they can go through the roundabout, and then there's a little roundabout, I guess.
Yeah.
Where the garbage will turn around and then go back down 14th that way. Or the one I don't want to see happen too much is come and drive through the parking lot and out that way. But that's where we have half of our kids getting picked up in the afternoon too, so that would just create a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
It's rough out there on 14th Avenue.
Yep.
Especially with all the snow today, there was
Yeah.
like, it's lots of backup.
It's like one lane, like.
Getting narrow.
There was 2 school buses and a snowplow that got into it that had my child on it today when I was waiting for it. It was pretty entertaining.
How does it even fit?
I don't know if this is an option, but, someone who, occasionally comes to pick up my kid at the park and do all that. Any chance we'd ask the Dairy Queen if we could use their parking lot for a little spillover so that there's just a little bit less cars amidst while we're going through the weather and construction and all that?
So yes, and I don't know. We used their parking lot, but I know there was a fee attached to it when we were going through construction. And I think his name is Steve, and I think he's the one that owns it. And so we talked to him, and Minneapolis plowed his lot, and so we had staff park there.
Okay.
Because when we were under construction, our parking lot was like non-existent.
Yeah.
That's it. I
don't know.
could inquire and see
I
if
don't know
that
if
could
it will
be.
alleviate a little bit on the traffic and the parking around where there's.
Yeah, and I think I can say right now that if our parking lot was plowed very poorly by the new contracted company, and I'll say it on the recording out loud so everybody can hear me. And our whole entire back row of our parking lot is not usable. And so we've lost, a good 15 to 18 parking spots just right there, and staff are kind of parking out on the streets. So I've they came and fixed by the handicap parking spots, and that road was non-existent too on Friday. And I know there's a lot of snow, but you also need to clear the snow in where the parking spots are. So I could inquire to see. Yes.
In anticipation of that, I'd like to float a motion. If there's a fee attached, PTO, I think, has the ability to cover.
We got the money.
Yeah.
Well, I could inquire and see, I think the snow removal piece, it would be interesting to see if it has to be the MPS. I don't think we would hire somebody to come with a snow blower and do it. We would, I don't know.
Well, no, I'm talking about getting a Dairy Queen lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's not clear.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not
pretty sure
plowed.
it's not clear. Right?
Yeah, but okay, yeah. Well, the point I want to make, and I don't know if we need a vote or if we're just fairly agreeable, totally speakable. Just so that it's thing. Pending whatever occurs, would PTO provide the funds to help make the Dairy Queen parking lot usable by our families?
I think I'd want to have more information so I could make an ROI kind of assessment in making my vote. Like, how much is it going to cost?
I was the assistant principal at the time.
Well, and I don't want to make another task for you, is that something one of us can contact Steve on and say hey, if we wanted to use that, I don't know, I guess I feel like there's a little bit of feasibility, like, will it help and alleviate what we think it will? In time.
And is it, I mean, is this like moving forward or just like right now in the winter when, I
I
mean,
think the combination of the construction and the, you know.
Steep narrows. And if anybody has any really good ideas on pickup, I'm all ears, but that's kind of the thought that I've come up with now.
Yeah.
Construction, how long will it take? So I just saw that question too come up on the chat. Allegedly, the 27th of January is when it's supposed to be open.
Oh, that's not
And so it's not super long, so it's not
What are
like.
they doing? Are they making regular?
I don't know, it's Center Point Energy, they obviously are digging into the ground, I have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, they do. They were really minding that for a couple months.
Yeah, well, I was too, because I got them to postpone it until whatever the 20th, whatever our first day of break was, and then I was told that a part would not come in, and they were not able to move forward with the construction. And so now, luckily, they reached out to me and said, hey, guess what?
Well, I like your idea of using that little turnaround for people who are doing pickup in cars, but it's almost like you have to eliminate parking on one side. Because so they could actually get around and come back out. So that would be like the house's side to like say no parking over there, and I don't think you can like just decide that, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and so then that's why the other way is to come down 14 through the parking lot and out the 39th end. But that just creates so much traffic when kids are trying to get in
Right.
cars and
it's worse.
people are trying to get out of the parking lot already, so.
Just do Chicago style, put some seats out there called dibs and then.
Yeah.
Few lawn chairs. Some chairs.
And again, I don't know what it would look like with, I mean, I with the turnaround,
Right.
with the road being so narrow. I've thought about 38, because it's not as busy as it used to be, but it's still
Yeah.
pretty busy. And then we have the big snowbanks too to
Yeah.
deal with.
A lot of
So-
people have been parking on 14th on the other side of 38th,
Yeah,
and they're
that's
just
what I
using the
did.
crossing guards, and that, I mean, they still have to then drive out through the crossing guard intersection, but.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess it's just the management of 14th Avenue and getting back that way.
Yeah,
Because there, I mean, that's gonna be completely closed to get down 14th to the south.
Well, and even 13th doesn't have the crossing guards, but it's got good lights on it too, like that's what we used to cross, so.
And I mean, and 13th also is our bus lane, and so.
Right, no, I don't mean it's, I mean south of,
Oh.
like if I were, that is south. North.
North.
Thank you, sorry, I have directional issues. North, toward the park.
So anyway, I'm gonna put out some communication tomorrow and, again, if anybody has any brighter ideas than I have.
Well,
How we're gonna do pickup,
Yeah.
I'll take them, but, that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's my biggest kind of, well, I have another big update that you'll get tomorrow, but,
Do we have
Oh,
preview?
that was a
Preview
teaser.
update?
it has to do with staffing.
Got it. I do, I understand that the construction is going to be fairly short-lived, theoretically speaking. If there is some use of DQ as a thing, could that just simply be an inquiry?
It could be an inquiry.
And
I'm just gonna throw out there too, we don't have school the 16th.
Yeah.
But I'm okay, we don't
have school the week, the day
the
after,
27th.
yeah, the day it's supposed to be done.
Yep, and the day it's supposed to be done, so there's 2 days there. We don't, is there another day? Oh, no, that's the 2 days, yeah.
Yeah, those are the 2 days.
And
And we have a process in PTO where minor, smaller, urgent matters, expenses are done over email chain. But the big things we do make sure we discuss here. I just want to get it on the floor that could we as a group empower the board, that's those of us that are holding positions, over email chain to discuss whether or not the DQ expense is a feasible expense. I mean, obviously, the inquiry is going to inform a lot about this, and then once that information's in, we as a board have an email discussion over it so that we could act on it promptly and not have to just sort of live through it.
It's actually pretty big. I
Is
feel
it?
like it's
I
from
was-
end to end,
Never-
you could probably put, 10, 12 cars in there.
And, yeah, and your idea is meant to be park, grab,
Yeah.
go. I mean,
So alternatively, we could maybe use that as the drop-off roundabout and use the safety patrol to help get kids across the street.
I mean, yeah, I think it just gives us flexibility. I don't want us to necessarily we're not gonna hammer out the details now. I just want us to have the flexibility to make an expense. So I am gonna put a vote out that PTO in this meeting, online and here in person, for this particular decision empowers the board to have an email vote on ameliorating the parking situation during construction. So this is not a full winter coverage thing, it's just during this construction. That's the vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
One's for online, for yes, two for no, all against nay?
I mean, I'm kind of thinking May, but is it just like 10 days or less or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Is it
Yeah.
worth
I
it?
kind of
I
feel
think we need to
May.
just collect some more information, but at least this way, if we had it and it made sense,
That's-
then we could act on it.
I'm asking
Yeah.
for
Might
mostly
be more work
transparency on
than
it.
it's worth.
That's okay, you can vote nay.
Yeah.
We don't have to be unanimous all the time. Absolutely. That's fine
If it
too.
finishes on, in their schedule, it'll be 8 school days.
Yeah. All right,
that we're-
The ayes-
we're in session.
yep, absolutely, gotcha. The ayes do carry, we've got 3 online yeses. I appreciate and absolutely 100% respect the nays.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just thinking out like, you know,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
plowing, the ask, the
Absolutely.
task, and then the work.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of the reasons why all right.
And I will use it.
Not gonna figure it out.
I'm just saying. Nice place.
Okay, we're now laughing in a rowdy manner. I do want to share on the tail end of
Wait, Diego, are
Diego's.
you done with your update?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I thought that was the tail end of your update.
No, that was the most important thing. we talked about tonight.
Okay, was there anything anymore?
Nope, that's good.
Are you sure?
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, all good. I wanted to, on the tail end of your school finder event, and that we are still in school choice, this is the video of our family narratives as it exists. It certainly can get edited into other things, but I think I've shared this to you and Sue, Diego.
Yep.
I don't know if you got any use out of it, but I certainly hope that and once we, I mean, it is public, but once we sort of share it more, we can get it to more folks about why we love our school. So here we go.
All right, kindergarten puppies, let's go inside. Ready, dog.
Mi boca hace la la la.
You don't have to be awesome. You just got to try. You know that, right? Trying is everything.
I love Bancroft because my kids are so happy at this school. And I love how unique and special everybody is, from the students to the staff to the teachers.
We've had a student at Bancroft for 6 years now and have just loved watching the community grow over the time we've been here.
I love Bancroft because of the teachers. I think that going to Bancroft is such a privilege, and it is amazing to work with all the teachers and have fun and learn.
I love the teachers, the support that they have for my kids, how they patient with my kids.
I love the diversity that is here at Bancroft, and I love how they all engage in making sure that all students feel represented.
We love the inclusivity of all the teachers and staff and the diverse families and the connections that we've made.
It's a good school because my other 2 kids, they graduate here until fifth grade. So, and also I have 3 kids over here. So Bancroft is my home.
Bancroft Bulldogs.
That's adorable.
All right, so
Dang, we're
I hope
lucky.
there's use.
Yeah, so, I mean, during our virtual open house, the past couple of years, I think you participated in doing the family experience sharing.
Yeah.
So we could definitely use this, or I would put it out again for anybody who wants to come to our virtual open house. We have about, 10 to 12 minutes set aside for families to share their experience and why they chose Bancroft, and to share that with the prospective families, so.
But good, yeah, so and then to piggyback again once more, so to re-piggyback, if there are anyone here who would like to join virtual open house to sort of speak on behalf of the existing experience, I know I've been attending, it's great to have more voices.
Can you remind us when it is?
Wednesday, January 18th from 5 to 6.
All right, so for the folks who would like to participate, the folks online, and then we will, from a PTO standpoint, we're going to sort of do a little, well, we'll work on it, a little campaign, sort of share it out more. That with our existing videos. We have a good set of specialist videos. We've got that overview video, now we've got this video. So as much as a pat on the back for the great job that we are experiencing here, I think as families that we can all sort of agree upon, but we also understand it's with increased enrollment that we get extra dollars, and that's the extra dollars that helps our school do the things that need to do. And I think we are very privileged in the fact that we are, 360, 420 when you count I-5. I mean, our numbers are pretty good, and we could do some extra outreach within our neighborhood to sort of, bolster that, because we have the capacity and we have the talent.
My goal is to return to being a 4K,
Yeah.
a 4 kindergarten section school.
There we go.
And
We have a goal.
Continue to build through that.
What were the kindergarten?
We're at 3 kindergartners, 3 kindergarten classes, and they're pretty full. I mean, we're at 25, 26, 27 kids, so they are full.
For families that don't live in the the perimeter, what's the likelihood if they pick Bancroft that they get in? Do you know how that works?
I don't know exactly how that works. I know that, to kind of rehash some of those CDD things, I know there's a CDD meeting tomorrow night at the board meeting. They're kind of going over the CDD and review. But we were told it'd be 20% or some numbers like that. We don't have very many students that are out of area enrollment. And they're promoting to go to your community school or to one of the magnets.
I asked because I met a family, our Buy Nothing group did a moonlight walk the other night, and there was a family there, and they said that Bancroft is closest to them, but they aren't in the perimeter, and I was like, oh, well, we have this play date, and I was, of course, saying all the things, and I was like, you can pick Bancroft as your first, and so I just.
Yeah, you can know, that's what there was a couple of parents.
Oh, yes, no, for sure. If we get a lineup, that's great. Sorry. That's not where I wanted to go.
It's all good.
I hate when we were in that position at our old place where there was a school next door and it was literally in a different school district. It wasn't even it was just the most ridiculous thing.
I mean, anecdotally, Bancroft is the closest school for us. Clearly, we walk there basically every day, but it's not our neighborhood school. And we got in at least for my older kid. And I know that's the case for, I think, V. Paul, you're out of district, you're out of area. And I know there's other people that are. So anecdotally, there are those of us who have gotten in out of area. The kid at the very end of the video who said she liked Bancroft, they're out of area too.
Cool. All right.
All right. Shauna, how are you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the plant update will be far more interesting next month because this month we are at the stage of I connected with Jack at Paul's on the 3rd of January. And he said that he was just finishing up the spring fundraiser information, and so I need to make sure he actually sends that to me, because apparently we have a Bancroft plant sale email address, but beyond that, that's the state that we're at, but he seemed enthusiastic about plant sale, so should be good to go. So I think we'll be at the poking around making choices stage by next meeting.
Okay. Was there garden project stuff to discuss tonight?
I mentioned it in the RSVP more as a oh, I thought that was on the agenda. I just wanted to raise my hand as that's a subject I'm interested in. Yep. But I know there was an email, like a subgroup email that kind of was active sort of early December. I honestly can't remember the names of who was.
I can rekindle that. I think I was put everybody on one and said, go forth and do, but I can like loop back, because I haven't seen any chatter on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna kind of maybe do that too. I think at the time that email went out, like I was sick, both my kids were sick, and it was like a week before Christmas, and I was like, I can't lead anything. But I'm feeling a little more motivated that like, if nobody else is gonna take that on, I feel really strongly that like a school garden would be amazing, and I would like to make that happen.
That's great, because I think that's where we stand with this particular one, is it's just who can sort of give it some momentum.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've got some momentum to give.
Yes.
And I'd like to add to that, Diego, if now is, I would imagine it's a good time now in one of your staffs or all faculty meetings, I don't even know what they're called. Could we encourage or solicit or would teachers want to be involved? Could they work it in their curriculum? I'm not sure how to start that conversation, but that's part of the thing was,
I mentioned it at the high five play date, and a couple parents, and I think it was Miss Annie and Miss Sarah that were like, oh, we would love something like that. I didn't know the details.
Sure.
Miss Allie too, so she would be like, really stoked to get the hands dirty.
Yeah.
The kids involved, or just even supporting it or
yeah.
sponsoring.
I think my hope is that we get some momentum to get a structure going so that once we're close to active,
I think when
we're ready
we
to go.
first got those, the summer school program did the majority of the work with the garden. Because of course, when you're done by early June, you know, that's the seedlings a lot of the seedlings are still just going in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
early June. But I think Margaret Preston was kind of the one who was in charge of that. I remember coordinating with her to get her a bunch of my extra seedlings. So, yeah.
Is she a staff member or a parent?
She's not a staff member, she's one of our EL teachers.
Okay.
And so I know she's a big gardener, so she might be someone to connect with about like trying to bridge from spring garden activities to continuing that through the summer.
Good.
Awesome, yeah.
So we've got some names. Yep, great, thank you.
I actually have t-shirts.
Oh, you do?
I didn't realize I had. Yeah.
Would you like a pie sale or?
About pine sale,
Okay.
yeah. Importantly, all orders are gonna have to be in by April the 28th. So that is
Okay.
a useful piece of information. I will, as soon as I I need to ask him for the login information. But I think that's the most useful thing is that.
Yeah.
Cause that kind of sets like a window.
I feel like that's late for us.
Okay.
So, but that's good to know.
Great.
So now, what
Nice
that
to
means
have
is
extra time.
we're at a place where we can pick our, at least schedule with you, Diego, when we want to do when things should
Yeah,
land.
so historically, we've done it Mother's Day
Yes,
weekend.
I said, oh my goodness, I hope I haven't failed in my first task of booking the Friday of Mother's Day weekend. So I will let you know as soon as I have that.
So that's always been the delivery and the distribution.
And are we usually in the 2:00 time slot? Because it looks like they deliver 9, 11, 2, and 5, or do we do it?
With a 5.
Well, last year we did 5.
Okay,
We've all, yeah,
okay, 5 o'clock.
sometimes we've done, last year I think we did Thursday at 5.
Thursday at 5?
And then had them in the hallway, yeah.
Okay, so you want Thursday?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
But that's what we're.
I'm just saying historically, that's what we've done.
Okay, sorry.
We've
I thought
also
it was
done
the
them really
Friday.
early in the morning,
Okay.
and just had them there ready on Friday morning.
Okay.
But 9 o'clock is really a really hard time.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
sorry,
when
I thought it
everybody's getting
was
to
evening of Friday. So I'm glad I said.
No, yeah,
No,
because
just kids, families come and pick up Friday afternoon, and then Saturday, 8 to noon or whatever.
What we're timing for is, we're still planning on using the cafeteria as a distribution point, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're timing for, just for the sake of the record, right? They were delivered, they sat, once you guys got cleared through all your lunches on the Friday, they got placed.
We got some volunteers and me
Yeah.
and some fifth graders and a couple parents moved all the tables
Yeah.
back into the cafeteria.
So it's a volunteer session, the Thursday of delivery, volunteer session, the Friday for setup, and then just a string of volunteers to sort of help the management Friday evening over Saturday day. But we're getting there, but now it's great to know that we can now at least, we have a good sense of setting the date, and you've got the selection stuff coming.
Yes,
So when I heard April 28th, that also seemed really it seemed late.
Okay, great.
For all the order forms, just because in 2 weeks we have the distribution. So I don't know
Well.
also historically what that turnaround has been.
So I am not seeing, I will have to ask Jack, but I am not seeing anything to suggest that they're doing anything but online. But do I recall correctly that we had to manually enter them online?
We are paper order.
We had paper order forms. Yeah, that was what I remember from last year as well, and there is nary a like whisper about that. There's just a lot about you're gonna get an email every time an order is submitted. And there's a Facebook button.
Yeah, so I think we as a group sort of, this, and I know we're about to run out of time here, but we as a group moved in the direction of keeping to the way it's been, which is without the online.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's a matter of reaffirming Jack or reminding,
Yes.
maybe he wasn't the contact.
He was the contact.
He was the contact, so
yeah.
maybe just reaffirming or reminding that that's our process, that we did not use. They did set up an online for us, but we did not use it. We did not use it last fall. So,
How do we feel if the answer is that it's only available online?
I think that's a good question to have, and we'll make that, we'll have to have a board
Okay,
email
because
discussion.
if we
and
have to
bring it
make some
back.
sort of quick pivot to
Yeah.
finding another vendor that will allow us to do paper, I don't think we want to wait another month.
No, yeah, but I don't know if
I will
we-
get that info
Yeah.
from Jack as soon as possible, but
We can make it work somehow, like have the paper form and data enter in.
the risk of that.
Can I just ask, as a total newbie, are they like seedling plants or are they like flowers? Or like, okay, so it's more like, or both?
All the things.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
the things, okay, all the
Let's see,
things,
we've
okay.
got.
There's even like,
There's also a lot of.
Yeah,
There's like
there's
arrangements
bowls
and
and
everything,
everything.
okay.
Yep. So there's sort of all
That's
of those vegetables, herbs. We can apparently use potting. Cool.
all right.
So can I rewind for just a minute and ask? you a
Absolutely,
question?
yeah, go for it.
And this is a question, might be for Sue and Diego, but do we have, I was going to, I'm on a public school, parents group online, and the different schools are putting out, my school is an open house, I was gonna put something out for the open house to both the neighborhood group, and the public school parents group. Do people need to register for the open house, or how would people join? I was just gonna make a graphic and let people know when it was. But what should I just direct people to the General Bancroft website? Is there somewhere they can sign up for the open house?
Yeah, you can direct them to the Bancroft webpage, and so how we've done it before is just advertise it there on the webpage, and then also with the postcards that go to the potential incoming students. So I have a list, I think there's 157 kids on the list, and I have their home addresses, and so all those kids get a postcard that invites them to the open house. It has when it is, and then to check the webpage for the link.
Okay, so the link will be on the webpage. Okay, great.
Yes. Does that answer the question?
Yep, exactly. I can just, and it's okay if I just make a graphic and stick it in the neighborhood group and this online group and just be like, come to the open house, go to the webpage for the link.
Absolutely, especially if they're interested in coming to Bancroft.
Yeah, and is the link live on the webpage right now, or is it something that just gets
It's
published
not
day
on the
of?
webpage. It's not on the webpage yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaliyah is leading our spirit wear, but was unable to come tonight for work. There is an update. Aaliyah in the group, were you in on this group? Okay.
I was not.
Michelle, you were in on this group?
I was trying to follow I don't have anything to present because my kids.
That's fine. No, totally fine. I just wanted to get a sense of, I know there's been an email chain separate that I'm catching up on also, but for the most part, what I wanted to say is we're at a place where we can choose vendors. And now I think what's going to occur next is we just need to sort of, when do we want to make our 2-week period, right? And for the bulk ordering, and then after that, we also launch the individuals. I'm sort of trusting Aaliyah, and I do, obviously I'm speaking on her behalf. they have made deliberations and they've come up with these groups as the potentials. Overproof for the bulk, K-12 is a recommended by Ali in the group. But custom ink is what we've done in the past, and they're just it just makes it easier. Part of the thing that's in discussion is whether cheaper, but it takes a little more management. For example, I believe it's overproof. It's a quick turnaround. We could provide them the shirt. We could source our own shirts, and then they just charge us for the printing, and that helps us keep costs down. But do we, or does Ali in the group want to be managing that kind of thing? So that's sort of where we're at. But I really just wanted to get this out there that we are making progress. And I wanted to have an opportunity for questions regarding Spiritwear. We are going to come up with new designs. That was the other thing. And Michelle, I will be helping you with the designing for whatever overflow, if there is a need. But one of the things that was discussed is, do we do the same thing every year? And some of our old designs were from the vendor, and they weren't actual designs, so just using the graphics that the vendor provided. So we have an opportunity to redo last year's design, but also, for example, we are an IB school. We don't have a current IB shirt. Wouldn't it be great if we used one of our bulldogs with the globe to talk about us as an IB school? That could be this year's design. So the notion is that there is a design that sort of sticks, which is what we have, last year's design. And maybe each year we introduce a shirt to sort of mark that year's design. That's something that is kind of an exciting phase for us, because we have designers in our midst. We have Michelle and other folks that have an interest. And we have those great designs, the Rocking Bulldog. That actually exists as a bulldog. I didn't realize it was a real bulldog until 2 weeks ago. Any questions about Spiritwear?
I guess I have a question. I don't want to throw a wrinkle into it, but do you know if we're choosing to consider ethics in this at all, or are we just kind of going for like a cost?
No, that's a fair statement. There is not a line in the sand, but there has been discussion. And the notion of how are we sourcing, where are we sourcing, and who's providing. I think that's part of how the groups, I mean, obviously, Custom Ink is the one that's been our go-to. K-12 is local as well. Or was it Overproof? I can't remember. One of these two were.
No, Overproof is local. Overproof is local, and we can provide our own shirts, so we could source ethical shirts, and then give them to Overproof, which would be great.
So that is so the consideration has been there, but I cannot say at this point that is a hard and fast.
I just wanted to ask. I am not on this committee for a reason. I just.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a fair statement. And I think it is part of our culture here at Bancroft. That is a question that gets asked. And it's a check on us. It's all the way down to where do we get our cups from? So that's totally a fair question. Absolutely. And so we'll get there. So but that was great. So thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Can't wait.
All right. That's all I've got. Thank you for today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you online.
Thanks. Yeah.
I did that.
No,